On today's episode of Undecided, we welcome on Tracy Lungrin from the Career Services at UNL. Great interview. I think it was probably the best one we've had so far here on our podcast. Brody, what do you think?
I think she's super passionate about helping people, and I think anybody that goes to her is going to further their career, and they have so many opportunities there at the Career Center, and I think anybody that's interested needs to listen.
Yeah, for sure. So if you guys are wondering how to find them, they are at the Nebraska Union 225, but we're going to swing it over to the interview to have Tracy talk about it more. All right, we'd like to welcome on Tracy Lungrin. She is at Career Services here at UNL. Tracy, how are we doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for coming on. So Undecided is the name of our podcast, and we're kind of gearing our podcast towards reaching out to maybe incoming freshmen to UNL, so maybe high school seniors. But talk a little bit about what you kind of do for the university and what an average day for you kind of seems like.
Yeah. I have a really fun job, to be honest. I feel really lucky. Around exploring, well, how about just my whole job? I'm a career coach in the University Career Services office, and then I also lead a team of we're about like 7 or 8 advisors in just that office, and then we're also connected to the greater career services community that's kind of spread out around campus.
Right.
So we see students individually. We do a lot of individual one-on-one coaching in our office around major selection, career selection, being deciding student, resume, cover letter, how to create a personal statement, interviewing, and job search and internship search.
Right, so pretty much kind
Wow.
Yeah.
a lot of
Cover a lot of ground.
Yeah, we do. It's fun.
when it comes to undecided students, maybe they're already enrolled in classes here and this is their first semester, or whether they're looking at UNL as their prospective university. What kind of factors do you think is important for those kids when they want to choose a major?
Yeah. I think one of the hardest things about being an exploring student is the first thing you're always thinking about is that you're the only one that doesn't have a plan. That's just kind of a natural human thing. I'm the only one that doesn't know what I'm doing. And I'm always like, well, then you know a lot of people that are faking it really well.
Right.
So I think just understanding that you're not, that most people are still really trying to find their way. And so kind of a mindset of instead of feeling like you're on the outs or that you're the only one, lean into the idea that you get to explore. It's almost a shift. It's a reframe of, hey, I get to, what time in your life do you get to experience all that a college offers and to really dig into it. So then you get that whole idea of starting to figure out what are my best skills, what are my unique personality traits, what do I want to do, what are my values, where do I see myself living, all of those really fun things to reflect upon.
Sure.
Yeah, I think.
And also my ability, right?
Yeah,
Right.
no, I was just going to say something you said really resonated with me about how, like, the ability to explore in general is actually, we look at it as like, oh, I don't know what I'm going to do, but it's actually kind of a gift, because if everything was laid out for us and this is the path you have to follow, I feel like a bunch of people would be unhappy anyway. So, it may seem like kind of crazy and stressful when you're the only one, but I think that's a huge point, that it's actually could be a blessing in disguise almost.
Right.
And what ways could you see undecided kids or exploring kids building confidence in exploring? And because I'm sure you see a lot of that where maybe they're too timid to take a class or a career path that, it's not always set in stone.
Yes.
What could they do to build their confidence?
Yep. I think that's one of the things that I always think about when I'm sitting with an exploring student. First, I have that empathy, because raise your hand if you were in that seat. We're almost all raising
Everybody's
our hand
raising
in
their
here,
hands.
right? And I just want to, I kind of want to just inspire them and motivate them to look into the next step. So one of the workshops we've been doing lately is around life design, or designing your life, which is that, I don't know if you guys have read this book. It's Design Your Life by Bill Burnett and Dave Evans, who are 2 Stanford professors who ended up teaching like a process, a very logical process that they use in like product design and engineering toward life design. And they always have a couple things where they say, just build your way forward. So experiment, fail, learn, repeat. So that whole idea of giving permission to explore, go test it out. So small tests, and then let's reflect upon it. What did you learn, and how is that going to change our path from here? So I think that's pretty cool. And so the other thing about getting someone excited about it is just kind of helping them really dig into who they are and what does already give them energy, what already is exciting them and giving them passion, and then maybe helping them draw a connection to something on campus that might be a fit academically or even with a student org, or just some way that they could start testing that out and gaining some momentum and gaining some confidence.
Right. Yeah.
Small steps.
I think momentum is huge, and
Right?
you say that. I feel like as soon as you find momentum in an area, like you said, even if it's a student organization, I feel like you
Yeah.
can take that and kind of run with it.
Oh, yeah.
And the testing and failing. I mean, that's a process you can
Yeah.
apply to everything.
You
so
can. And if you think that you're not going to apply that throughout your entire life, you are wrong. 'Cause
Right.
your whole entire life is actually one big experiment.
Kind of moving on from that, because like you said, there's so many different things that you guys do for almost any kind of student
Yeah,
here on
at all
campus. So
levels.
like, exactly. So shifting to kind of where Brody and I are at now, we're both seniors. So what would you kind of do for students that have been here for a while, maybe juniors or seniors, that like you're looking at cover letters or resumes? So how do you make students ready for that next step after college?
One of the principles that my staff and I talk about all the time is meeting each individual student where they're at, and students are at different places, even if they're seniors or juniors, at different spots. And so just really giving, if we're working on it with them one-on-one, we really want to understand what they've done. We want a little bit more of their story, what they've done, what their goals are, and then helping them again kind of map out the next steps. So for you guys, are you job searching? Are you thinking about job searching?
Starting to a little bit.
Are
Yeah.
you?
unfortunately, it's a little scary. Now we
Yes.
got to the point where we're 2-3 years in, and we kind of got
goes
the
fast,
idea
doesn't
of
it?
it though. You get
Yeah.
comfortable. You're like, okay, I can do this. But now it's like a whole new level that we're about to go into.
It
So it's like
is.
another freshman year all over again. Only
It
it's to
is.
life this time.
Absolutely. Like we're the big kid jobs. I think one of the hardest things about job search today is because we live in a digital era, I think everything is so accessible. And so you get overwhelmed far more than you did back in the day of when my parents would just clip classified ads and, walk their resume to the neighbor next door. So, I mean, I'm oversimplifying it, but that's
that's a
so
good
a big
point.
part of that
Yeah.
is helping you guys structure your job search, giving you some strategies to empower yourself, not overwhelm yourself, kind of prepare for a little bit of rejection, a little bit of butt kicking, to just be honest. That's
Yeah.
part of the
Character
process.
building.
Character building. That's better than what I said. And then also just kind of being your champion when you need to dust off or you need to switch a strategy. And then like anytime you're feeling a little bit anxious about maybe interviewing or networking, doing a lot of networking, prepping you for, going into meeting contacts and not asking for jobs there, but just finding out more about those companies, what they're looking for, and making good impressions step by step by step.
For sure.
Sorry,
Yeah.
that was a long answer.
No, that's
I
a good
mean,
answer.
Some of it's complex, so it's not
Yeah,
easy,
yeah.
ABC answers.
No.
And one thing you said about failing really, one of my favorite quotes is, you can fail at something you hate, so you might as well find something you love and fail at it. Because that's always stuck with
awesome.
me, because it's like, maybe I should just take a safer path or a more practical path. And it's like, but if I fail at that, then I'm really going to be unhappy. You know what I mean? At least
Yes.
if you fail trying to do something you actually enjoy.
Yeah.
I feel like that's it.
Well, and that comes back to inspiration, because if you fail at something you love, you'll get back up and go back after it.
Yeah.
Because that means you really learned something, where if you fail at something you hate, you just lose hope,
Yeah. and
right?
then, yeah.
What's the purpose of
That's a very good point. What can students do now, other than just, resumes and cover letters and things? What can they do now to help kind of further what do you want to say? Their percentage of success in the
Yeah.
future? Are there things?
Yeah.
I know that's a broad question.
Are we
but
kind of thinking on that exploring student again?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kind of going back to that audience?
Yeah.
Well, and honestly, I think of this even at your age. One of the things that, and I'm really needing to do more studying about this. I have a week vacation next week, and I keep thinking I'm going to read all these books. And,
I was thinking
I
the
don't
same
know about
thing.
that, but I'm going to try. And one of the things we're seeing again in that digital age is we have so many ways to contact people. Everything is accessible, but what happens is we sometimes have lost that one-to-one connection. So really pushing students to go and build relationships, build connections. I don't even want to call it networking. Go and test, go and take a look, go shadow, go talk to people in the field. Have as many conversations like that as possible to learn from professionals, to learn what people are doing, to learn about, and then it's so cool because those people will then set you up with more people.
That's
So
the
it's
key,
just
right?
that's really where the momentum starts to happen, and then you start to enjoy that process. It doesn't seem overwhelming. You learn a ton, and I feel like that's when things start to kind of fall in your lap.
Right.
But
Yeah.
you can see when from our digital age that we are usually trying to send our resume to this, email here, get a status update here, where really that stuff, if you can break it down into the simple building relationships one by one, that's I think that's where we're all missing the mark
For sure.
today.
Yeah, I think you bring up a really good point about how things can be super overwhelming just because, I mean, like you said, like your parents were clipping out newspaper
were.
ads and like literally walking the resume down. So kind of going off of that, obviously things are different now, but if you kind of put yourself in our shoes where we're at, what kind of advice would you give someone now?
I would, first of all, my first piece of advice is to say, come in and see us in career services. We are not a required appointment. So it's really a student that's got to come in and see us. And we love to help you strategize and plan. And we like to work with you at all levels. So that's my first piece of advice, because I think a lot of times you need to start breaking the career development process down in pieces, and kind of, really think about, who you are, who do you want to be, and how do I get there? And I think those are 3 questions we can really help you with. The next part is, if I were going to give one piece of advice, I would love for students to just start giving themselves permission to explore, go have those informational interviews, go look at job sites, go shadow, go figure things out more. And look at a lot of things that interest you, because naturally you start to make decisions. Naturally you start to prioritize what's more of a match to you than not. We actually learn very much by the contrast. We don't necessarily know. A lot of times it's subconscious, but it's like, oh, I did not like that at all. But when I did this visit, I really liked that. There was something, and then reflecting upon it.
And I think sometimes those will surprise us, what we actually like, or
Definitely.
like what sounds good on paper, or like the
Yes,
idea
the
of it.
status.
But then, and then you
Right.
go and you're like, wow, that was terrible.
was
And I
terrible.
can't imagine, 30 years of that.
Right.
So, I mean, what would you say are the top benefits of setting an appointment with the Career Center,
Yeah.
and whether it's later junior seniors or whenever it's
Yeah.
applicable? Like what do you top?
What do you get
Yeah,
out of it?
yeah.
Kind of what's the value add?
I'm sure there's a lot of value that's hard to tangible.
Yeah, no,
make it
I think
tangible.
you're
but-
right. I think think about you guys, think about your schedules and what's on your mind. And then again, today's student, all the information you're taking in with your Snapchats and your text messages and your, all of that, which wasn't around when I was here. And I was still really busy and overwhelmed as a college student. So I can't imagine today. So I think the real benefit is to have a coach, is to have a guide, is to have a tour guide that's here for you, that's totally in your corner, that's, intaking you, because you don't really always know where you're at or where you need to go. So having that person totally for you, and then helping you, partnering, as we call it in our business, we call it partnering with you on building you the next steps.
Yeah, and even just somebody to be there and like just to relax us a little bit, you know what I
Yes,
mean? Because I feel like,
yes.
especially our age group, we have this sense of impending doom where
You
it's
do.
like I don't know what it is, but it's like,
Anxiety.
yeah, but
I call it
it's about
anxiety.
like, okay, so I'm graduating in May. So if I don't have a job lined up in May, I'm a
Yes.
failure. Or like if I don't have a career at 23, I'm a
Yeah.
failure. And it's like
Yes.
this sense of urgency where it's like there
is.
needs to be urgency and you need to have a plan, but I feel like
Yes.
in the long scheme, like you have time a
in
little
the
bit.
bigger picture.
Yeah.
And I love to get bigger picture with students in my office because that's the kind of, they come in with that. I always say that's why I'm taking a week's vacation because I've had a lot of anxiety in my office
Just
for about
reflected
the
to
last
you.
3 months. I've taken it on right here. They're like football hits. And I think, de-escalating that anxiety and saying, okay, let's look at the big picture. Because ironically, even when you are 23 and you start that next job, you're still exploring. Let's be honest. I'm still exploring. I think that's the other thing that I'm really learning from my job. It's like, do I consider this a career? I've been doing higher ed and career development, leadership development for a long time, but I'm still exploring all the other ways that could play out for me.
Yeah. One of my favorite entrepreneurs and authors is Gary Vee. I don't know if you know who that is.
Oh, gosh,
yes, I love him. And one of the things he always says that just always sticks with me is like, you could do nothing for the next 15 years and still be young and still be able to do whatever you wanted to do.
100%.
And it's just like, whenever I think about that, I'm like, wow. Like,
Especially in today's world.
Yeah.
It's so phenomenal.
So it's just, I feel like for some reason we have that mindset where it has to be now. You know what I
Yes,
mean?
exactly.
It could be the social media, the
Right,
instant gratification kind of culture. But
Right.
so I think that's huge, even to just talk to
Agreed.
people about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, like, we want people to go to career services just because, like, you, like, brought up so many good points of how there's so much different things that we need to set ourselves up for the career. So, like, what's the most things, or what do you see the most from students that come to see you?
Yeah. Our number one touch point is resume.
Okay.
And I love it because a resume is something tangible. So it's easy to come in. It's not easy to come in and say, I don't know what I'm doing.
I have
right?
psychological
Yeah.
blocks.
Yeah. But a resume, hey, I need a resume. And then it can start from there. So it could even start from resume. And we definitely take it from the resume. Okay, what do you want to use for the resume? So that's our number one. But I think anytime you're experiencing any doubt or anxiousness or uncertainty, or if you feel like you're not in the right fit or the right path or something, you tend to shame, you kind of that self-shame spiral,
Yeah,
right?
yes.
But come in and start talking about it, because that'll free you up from it. We'll start focusing on what's not going right, and then we'll start kind of recentering or recalibrating and helping you kind of get back to, who you really are, what you really value, and what matches that.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes that may change over time too.
It
You might come in
does.
at 18 and
Heck
decide
yeah.
one thing, and then at 20 you're like, I want something else. But
Yes.
that's an interesting thing you said about the resume, where it's almost like a dabble. It's like
It's a
that's how
dabble.
you get
It's a
them. It's
test.
like
It
okay, I went
is.
there for a resume, but I really had everything else I wanted to
It's
talk
a
about.
test.
Yeah, it is. And
It's
then when that
good.
goes well, I'm sure the retention is there, and they come
It
back. They're like, hey, you
is.
guys help me with this. How do I,
Yeah. That's one thing we've really been working on in our office, is to not make that a transactional moment, that resume, because it can be. It's like, okay, here's your edits. Thank you very much.
Go get a
Good luck.
job.
Yeah, go
Yeah.
get out of here. It's more about asking the questions about tell me more about your path. Tell me more about your plan. And then kind of adding value, because I think students don't even know that that's a service that's here, or they forget about it, or it's out of sight, out of mind. But that resume point to me, it's an easy win.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
An in,
Which is great.
too,
It's an in. It's an in.
We've been asking all our guests here the same question, and I'm going to ask you the same question just because we're kind of gearing this towards, like, obviously high school seniors, but even people who are here already. But why Nebraska?
Why Nebraska? Oh, for school?
Yeah.
Oh man, I have I didn't go to undergrad here, so this is about my 4th year, and to me, I'm from Nebraska, and I thought this was a really big place. I thought UNL was a really big place, and I even remember when I came to work here 4 years ago, I was like, am I gonna like this? I love it, and it's not a big place.
Yeah.
It's so incredible. So if I was gonna say why Nebraska, we can connect you. We can connect you. You will be connected here. And the people really genuinely care. and everybody knows everybody, to include everybody. I mean, I always say, I know people's cows' names. I know people, I'm just part of our culture to know one another. We're a community, and we will get you connected.
Yeah.
I always like to say it's like Lincoln in general and Nebraska is like big enough to have the resources, but small enough to care.
Totally.
So it's like, you know what I mean? It's that
it's the best
perfect
of both
balance.
worlds.
You know what I mean? So
It is.
But so for career services, what's the best way to get in contact and set up meetings, or how do people go about that?
You bet. So if you're students, you know how to use My Plan, which can sometimes, I hear from my students, be daunting.
It's gotten better.
It's gotten better. And sometimes I think one of the hardest challenges we have as staff is if we're all booked for a week, you might have to wait a week. And you know how we are as humans about even waiting 2 minutes for our Starbucks. We have many meltdowns. So just that part is a little rough. But coming in, you can come in. You can email us. You can go to our website. You can email us for an appointment. Our staff gets right back to you. You can call in for an appointment. Or you can use My Plan for an appointment. We have everything except you can't tweet us for an appointment. We're not quite there yet, right?
So close.
Yeah. So I think want to wrap this up. So do you just want to tell everyone where we can find you and your lovely staff?
Thank you. Yeah. I want to give a broader pitch for, so I work with the staff in the University Career Office, which is essentially in the Union. Our Career Center's 225 in the Nebraska Union. But we have staff now embedded into the colleges. So Chris Scanlon just started with us here in the College of Journalism. She's right downstairs. So she's someone that you can probably just go by her office even and chat with her. We have 2 career coaches in the arts and sciences. We have a whole staff in the College of Business. We have a staff in the College of Engineering. We have a staff member in the Kasner, and we have partners in all the other colleges. So you can find us, but if you get scared or overwhelmed, come to the Central, because we are the Central, so we'll get you to someone. How's that?
Disperse.
Yeah, we'll get you. Come to us and visit us, and we'll hook you up.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, Tracy, thank you so much for coming on to our podcast. We really appreciate it.
This was fun. I'm so hip now.
All right, perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
We'd like to thank Tracy Lungrin for coming on to our podcast. Like we were saying in the beginning, that this was probably one of our best podcasts. Brody mentioned before that she's a really passionate person about what she does, and I think that's really what you want to see from someone who's giving career advice. So go see Tracy and her wonderful staff at Career Services, and each of the colleges here at UNL have one of their own. So go see all of her wonderful staff, and that will wrap it up for today's episode of Undecided.